Three, two, one. What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Daniel, side note, it's not football. The Braves just closed out game 2 against the Phillies. Magic numbers 2 with the win tomorrow night.
It's 1.
Oh, it's 1 now.
Because we won and they lost. So it was 3 today. We beat them. It's 1. So
love it. On a year we lost our best pitcher.
I was at the game. Player. I got to boo Bryce Harper 4 times tonight. Great. Actually, it was 3 times because he didn't come up that last time before we left. So
love it. Go Braves from here in Atlanta. But we got a packed week of college football this week. Week 5 features 5 games where both teams enter this game undefeated. Only 5 will leave undefeated. And Daniel, I tweeted this, but I texted you 15 games to choose from to narrow it down to 7. And I felt like when I sent you 15 that I was leaving games off, and I felt bad about doing it. It's one of those weeks.
It's a great undercard.
It's not like any of these weeks so far have been bad at all. Every week has been excellent. It's just this one looks excellent on the outside.
Yeah, one of those weeks. Maybe it was week 2 or week 3. I can't remember. Where everybody was like, oh, this is one of those weeks. We don't like it. And then it was like, that's when all the upsets happened.
Oh, yeah.
So, just a fun time.
Through 4 weeks, it is the most AP top 25 teams that have been beaten through 4 weeks of any season. So fun season of parity so far. And hey, we did it without an expanded playoff. How about that? And the top dogs look vulnerable. Maybe that happens when everyone has quarterback turnover and skill position turnover. Maybe. So, Daniel, we're going to cover Maryland, Iowa, that Friday night game, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Arkansas, Notre Dame-Cincinnati, Alabama, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Florida, and Oklahoma State, and Baylor. But outside of those games, we're going to get to what is a game or 5 that you're excited to watch this weekend.
Well, so we know the Georgia and Auburn, that's the Deep South's oldest rivalry. How about the Deep South's newest rivalry? And that is Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State. All right. I've made it that name myself. I coined it just here live on the Extra Point. So
we need to get that out there.
Yeah, we got to get it out there. Yeah. So the Deep South's newest rivalry, you're welcome.
Because it's Georgia, like score from Georgia, score from Alabama.
Yep. Most likely you've got Georgia fans pulling for Kennesaw State. That they probably went to Kennesaw State. And then probably some Auburn fans who went to Jacksonville State. So, just throwing it out there. But that's a good matchup. It's a game that it actually is a rivalry. I've been to it a couple times. One of the times in SunTrust Park.
That's right.
And it was
like 18
5 overtime game, 52 to like 48 or something like that. So KSU came out on top, of course. KSU has ended Jacksonville State's season in the playoffs. They're both in the Atlantic Sun. In other sports, the Atlantic Sun does not have a football conference until next year, and they'll both be in the same conference. This is an out-of-conference matchup and has been every time they've played in football. It's a great rivalry. It's definitely fun to watch. Both fan bases do not like each other. Teams do not like each other. This means a lot. So give me that one. It's at 3:00.
Can I list 6 games?
Go ahead.
Look, I'm just going to list some off that we're not even talking about.
Give us the undercard, okay? Yeah.
Look, Wake Forest, Louisville. Only a touchdown spread. Wake Forest is undefeated. Louisville's very capable of beating Wake Forest. Oklahoma, Kansas State. Kansas State has beaten Oklahoma the last 2 seasons. They're at home as a 10.5-point dog. I like those points. I like Oklahoma to win, but they have not been explosive.
You riding with Kleiman?
Oregon, Stanford. Mario Cristobal has had problems with Stanford since coming to Oregon. That's a fun matchup. You got 2 fun SEC matchups. The Tiger Battle between Auburn and LSU will be awesome. The Tiger Bowl in Death Valley, and then Texas A&M and Mississippi State, the battle of who wants to score least in the SEC West. So, I mean, a fun undercard. So
that's going to be a confusing one to watch with all the maroon. You're going to be like, who is on offense? What's going on?
That's right. Know. Yeah, we won't even know. So let's get to the main card, the main event. Let's start Friday night into Big Ten. A battle of two unbeaten teams I don't think we would have predicted to be undefeated to this point. And Maryland and Mike Locksley are playing host to Iowa. In Maryland, they are 3.5-point underdogs at home to Iowa. Iowa, I don't even know where they're ranked in the AP poll. I know in the extra point rankings, they're at 12 outside the top 10. Where are you going with this game?
Yeah, so I just love that these are two different teams. Like they are, one is defined by their offense, one's defined by their defense, and then they worry about getting just enough on the other side of the ball to make, to help them win ball games. You come from more or less a storied program, a team that's been around for a while, consistency in Iowa. You've got kind of the new kid at the table with Maryland. They only been in the Big Ten now for about a decade. It still feels like they just were in the ACC. And then, Mike Locksley entering his fourth year, I guess, as the head coach now at Maryland. And so, he's finally seems like he's got, his players in there. Obviously, Tagovailoa is having a great year. Already 1,300 passing yards, 10 touchdowns to 1 pick. I mean, he's having a really solid season. I'm really excited about, what, Raheem Jarrett can do at the receiver, Demus Jr. He's having a great year. Really, I'm kind of in a place where I don't want to call it chaos, but it's definitely some Friday night madness. Things happen on Friday nights you can't explain. My gut would tell me that Iowa is, or I guess my eyes and my, brain would say that Iowa is just the better team. Obviously, we rank them higher. I think that to this point, they've had a tougher go of it. I just feel like Maryland's going to pull some crazy stuff. They get points at home, 3.5. I like that. I feel like Iowa might be lucky to escape here with a win. So give me Maryland, give me the 3.5.
Mike Locksley said this week when asked about this is their second Big Ten game. This is their second Big Ten game on a Friday as well. And he said, maybe in a couple of years, we'll get the full invite to the conference. Yikes. Yeah, I've said before when I think the wrong team is favored, I've said wrong team favored, right? I don't feel that in this game. I feel like the right team's favored. I just think Maryland's going to win. I think the point spread is kind of exactly where it should be. Iowa by 3. Maybe they're a touchdown favorite at home, but Iowa's defense has been ridiculous this year. They're second in the country in opponent yards per play. And Maryland's offense, though, has been top 20 in the country at 6.7 yards per play. The last time Maryland played a pretty good defense this season was against West Virginia. Against that defense, Maryland put up over 500 yards of offense, averaged 6.2 yards per play, 7.4 yards on first down. They're getting ahead of the chains, setting themselves up for success. While Iowa's defense has been good, they've really made their money off of turnovers, which there's a bit of luck involved there. When they played Iowa State, which was the last decent offense that Iowa played, they gave up 5 yards per play, 350 yards, 5 yards on first down. They won that game 27-17, but they scored 20 points off of turnovers on short fields and pick sixes. If you take that out of there, really Iowa State outscored them 17-7. And so if I were to go back, I'd have bet Iowa State. If you look at the box score, they deserve to win. So I think this is kind of a bad matchup for Iowa. Again, I think the right team's favored. I think it's a bad matchup. I think Maryland wins this game outright on Friday night. They're at home, 24-21, low-scoring game, which you think, would favor Iowa. But I just think it's a bad matchup. If Maryland can stay out of turnover help, I think they can win this game outright. So I will take Maryland and the points, but I think they win outright. A little chaos on Friday night. I love it. And I'm feeling good because you're sitting here at 68% against the spread, and we're on the same side here. So feeling good there.
Almost 69%.
Nice.
68.5.
So let's go to the big noon kickoff. Got some competition this week for the big noon kickoff. Wisconsin and Michigan. This line has jumped all over the place. It has been, I think it's been up to 2 points in either direction, and it just keeps moving back and forth. We locked this in at Wisconsin -1. Again, we've seen it Wisconsin -2, Michigan -2, pick them. Right now it's at Wisconsin -1. But man, Wisconsin, can they avoid losing their third game of the season? We had a lot higher expectations for Wisconsin coming in. Michigan's looked pretty good, but is this a matchup that favors Wisconsin? Your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, so my gut tells me, or I guess my eyes, it's like Wisconsin bad, Michigan good. All right. Okay, if it's basically a pick 'em, just take Michigan. That's the easy, like, don't overthink this. Just go with it. Michigan has been solid as far as, good. They've been good on offense. It's not been solid, it's been good. Cade McNamara has had a good season thus far. Obviously, they're 4-0. And then Wisconsin is just it's been confusing what they've been offensively. It's almost like they tried to change things with Graham Mertz being, maybe a more capable passer, but then it's just like they don't have the players to do that, and then they also can't pound the ball like they used to. The offensive line hasn't quite been there, and so everything in me just tells me that I believe that Michigan's going to win this game. It's at Wisconsin, so obviously that's like the key here is like, do I think that Michigan can go on the road and win this game? This would be a big feather in Michigan's cap, I think. I do think that some people might undervalue this if Michigan comes in here and gets somewhat of an easy win. Let's say they win by 10 points or something like that. I think that a lot of people would undervalue it because of Wisconsin's year that they've had so far. But Michigan hasn't gotten over this hump in the past few years, and they've really struggled to – I don't know. I think that this is a game that – I think this game means more to Michigan than meets the eye. So I think that there's a lot of incentive for them to go in and win this game. I think that everybody's heard the criticism. We're going to see if Michigan can win while they're there's positive things talked about them, while there's a target somewhat on their back because they're undefeated. So all of that said, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I picked Wisconsin against Michigan. So I'm selling my Graham Mertz stock. I bought it high and I'm selling it low. I'm doing what you're not supposed to do. So don't follow me for stock advice. But I am going to go with Michigan, the more solid team, and basically a pick 'em game because it's a 1-point spread. Give me Michigan in that measly 1 point on the road in Madison. I'm going to run and hide, and hopefully Michigan pulls it out.
Yeah, Michigan has an identity on offense. And the only problem I have with that is it matches up well against Wisconsin's defense. Like, it plays into Wisconsin's favor. Michigan, despite bringing in Josh Gaddis a couple years ago, like, I think Harbaugh has pulled him aside this year and said, look, when I've been really good at running a pro-style offense and running the dang ball and being efficient in the passing game. And they've committed to that, and they've been really, really good. Cade McNamara is throwing for 10 yards per attempt. Like, when they're throwing the ball, it's great, but their identity has been running the ball. I think that matches up well for Wisconsin, but man, Wisconsin has struggled offensively. And Wisconsin's identity on offense has always been a smash mouth offense, but that starts with, obviously they've had some great running backs, but they've been awesome up front on the offensive line. It's been very unlike Wisconsin, but this year they've just been bad on the offensive line. They haven't looked good. They're getting blown off the ball, which I think is messing with the identity that they want to be. Then, of course, they try to mix in, some spread concepts, but some better passing concepts to better suit Mertz's skill set. But so far, he's thrown 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. So I'm with you. I don't feel great about it because it's Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. And are they going to go throw a clunker out there? I certainly hope not. But Michigan is 3-1 against the spread. They're beating the spread by an average of 10.8 points per game against the spread. So they've been explosive on offense, averaging 7.2 yards per play. Michigan's look better. I'm going to take the measly point. I think they went outright, and I'm with you. I'm going to go hide. So,
I mean, they're the pick. They
yeah.
are the pick. Anyone who's watched any football this year knows that they're the pick. But, Jacob, you and I both know this is college football.
It's college football.
And you could just hit that chaos button. I didn't want to hit it right here. I just didn't.
Not yet.
But you can. But I feel like if Michigan was home, it would be too perfect. I feel like the road might focus them a little bit more, if that makes any sense at all. Like if they were at home, I'd be nervous because they've got all these expectations at home, and then Wisconsin comes in there and finally figures out what they're doing. So, anyways, wow,
Michigan's
2 for 2.
Pick. 2 for 2.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we might. I don't know. We'll see. I think we might get 4 picks together. We'll see.
Potentially.
So let's go to the other big noon kickoff. Georgia and Arkansas. College Game Day will be there. A very rare Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler on the call for the noon game, the high noon game on ESPN.
Yeah, they usually aren't even on an ESPN call. It's always ABC.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Georgia and Arkansas, high noon, number 2 versus number 8. And you'd think this is a top 10 matchup, probably a pretty close point spread. Then Vegas goes and drops this 18.5 point spread on the game. Georgia favored by 18.5. Arkansas has been, I think, the team of the year so far in college football. They would definitely get my superlative for September as team of the month. Do they have I mean, Vegas is saying this is going to be, again, closer to 3 touchdowns. Does Arkansas have a chance? So they cover the spread. Can they beat Georgia?
They can cover the spread. They can beat Georgia, I think, with Georgia's help. I think if Georgia obviously it plays down a little bit, but also if Georgia turns the ball over,
and gives up explosive pass plays, which
they've been very good. Arkansas has been very good at capitalizing on that. And then this ball control offense, I think that they have where it's a really 2-headed, almost like a veer that they run with their read option with KJ Jefferson and Traylon Smith. And then they hit, Traylon Burks out wide. It's really fun to watch, honestly, because you've got the potential for the explosive deep threat there with Traylon Burks, who many are calling the best receiver either in the SEC or the nation. And I'm not slowing him down. I think he's close. I think he's in that discussion. If you're going to have that discussion, he's in it. He is phenomenal. I hope he's healthy for this game because watching him towards the end of that game, I know he's practiced a little bit this week. So
I have some good news there.
Okay.
Reading some practice reports that he has practiced without a brace or anything like that and just has not appeared to be limited in practice or limping.
Okay, good.
So that's good news.
That's great news, honestly. So he means more for their offense than a lot of players, even KJ Jefferson. Now, I say that KJ Jefferson's been great this year, specifically running the ball. He's, everybody's going to draw the Cam Newton stuff, and then he's even called, said that he likes Cam Newton. He models his game after him. I see a little bit different. I think he's a little bit more of a Tebow in a way, with, he's right-handed and a little bit more accurate, I think, I don't know. The big thing is he's more of a battering ram when he runs the ball over and over. Anyways, let's not get into that. I think that he's very special. Hopefully he's 100% for this game. Traylon Smith, though, I feel like doesn't get mentioned a lot. They're running because they've got 4 running backs that get the ball with Sanders and these other guys. I think that Traylon Smith, he looks small when he's running the ball. Like he looks really thin and he's tough and he gets the tough yardage. He never goes down on the first hit, gets great second effort. This game, though, Georgia's defense, the more I've watched it this year, is just, it's different. Obviously, the front 7 is great. They're going to get all the accolades, and they're great. They're explosive. I think they cause havoc. They're deep. the defensive backs and they're just the whole defense as a whole. There's an extra element that I've noticed when I watch their games. They're long. Every player is long wingspan. They're tall. They play well in space. So they usually will make the open field tackle if they have one. But they fly to the ball, and I feel like they're just really good at getting sideline to sideline. Everybody's got great lateral quickness, and then they run to the ball really well. So they're fast and they're long, and honestly, that trait goes a long way in today's football. They just have a lot of guys that are over 6 feet everywhere. They've got a lot of defensive linemen and defensive backs. I mean, that are over 6'3". So I think that that's a big factor when you try to, do something to this defense. I do think that this will be Georgia's greatest test so far this year. Clemson we thought was, but you saw with their offensive line. If Arkansas's offensive line is healthy, this will be the strongest offense that they have faced all year. Defensively, I think that Arkansas is a strong unit altogether. I think they have maybe the three best linebackers if you're going to put a whole group together in Bumper Pool and Grant Morgan, and then is it Hayes? The three of them together, they're Henry, Hayes Henry. They're all great together. They rotate them in that defense that they play. I think it's going to give Georgia a different look, but Georgia's success rate on offense has been very high, so high that they're number one. And I think that is going to go a long way, because I do think that even if the passing game is taken away, they're going to run the ball. And so far this season, we haven't seen Georgia just, I guess, be explosive in the running game. They've been solid, but I think that they will take what the defense gives them. I know I've given a long-winded answer. I just wanted to get as much, talked about this game as possible, because I do think it's a great matchup. But the way I see this playing out, Arkansas, unless there's something special happens and they do something on special teams or defensively with a turnover, I don't think that they're going to keep it within the 18.5 points. I think that Georgia will have enough to score in the 30 range, and I don't think that Arkansas is going to have enough to score more than 17 points is the ceiling. I really feel like them realistically scoring on Georgia's defense without help. Georgia's been great on special teams, so I just don't really feel like something special teams wise would happen. So it'd have to be something where they intercept JT Daniels, or maybe strip one of the running backs if they get loose with the ball. So I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to lay the 18.5. Georgia's at home. I think that if game day wasn't there and it wasn't this big top 10 matchup, I do think that Arkansas would stand a chance to cover, because Georgia may be sleepwalking a little bit on a noon kickoff.
Yeah.
But I think that there's so much juice around this game. And I think that they're really trying to take it seriously, if there's such a way to just take every game seriously. But I think that this one's not going to be a trap game, so to speak.
Both teams undefeated. Something's got to give. Georgia 3-1 against the spread with a 14.4 margin. So they're beating the spread by 14.5 points. Arkansas 4-0 against the spread with two wins as two outright wins as underdogs. So Arkansas also very good against the spread. Something's got to give here. Both offenses are averaging 7 yards per play on offense. Georgia leads the country on defense, giving up just 3.1 yards per play. But here's the crazy thing. You talked about how good the defense is. Here, I have a few stats that'll just blow your mind right here. 3.1 yards per play allowed on defense. The number 2 team is at 3.7 yards per play. So that gap is 0.6 yards. All right. That might not sound like a lot until I put it this way. The number 15 team is at 4.3 yards per play. So the same gap between number 1 and number 2 is also the same gap between number 2 and number 15. Wow. This defense has been ridiculously good. And you can say, yes, look at who they've played. But again, they've done what elite teams do. They've shut them down. EPA. EPA's stat nerds out there starting to love EPA. It is the expected points added, and it translates yards into context. For example, a 3-yard gain on 1st and 10 is bad, but a 3-yard gain on 3rd and 2 is good, right? Yards into context. So how do we compare? EPA takes into account down, distance, yard line, game state of each play, calculates the added point value of each play. Georgia currently leads the country in EPA margin. Like, it's not to see you beat, it's how you beat them. Now, Traylon Smith has been practicing in a non-contact jersey this week. Again, I think if Arkansas is going to beat Georgia or cover the spread, they got to come play their A game. Traylon Smith in a non-contact jersey. KJ Jefferson is wearing a brace on his knee. If he's not 100% and he cannot be a threat in the run game.
Are you saying Traylon Smith? You mean Traylon Burks, the receiver?
No. The running back is in a non-contact jersey.
I didn't know that he was injured.
I don't know if he is or not. I just know it's been during the media viewing period. He was in a green jersey. So if Jefferson is not 100% and can't be a threat in the run game, this defensive line is going to get their hits. Like, Georgia and Dan Lanning have designed some beautiful blitz packages, and they're going to get home if he's not a threat in the run game. They have to be able to run KJ Jefferson to keep the defense honest. And it's part of what sets up Arkansas to have explosive plays. And so if he's not a threat in the run game or isn't 100% in the run game, I think that's not good against the Georgia defense, because you got to bring your A game. This line, and I'll mention one more thing about Arkansas. They're practicing in a 4-man front this week at practice. They've been running a 3-man front all season to this point. So, one, that tells you they got respect for Georgia's offensive line, but I'm curious because part of the reason Georgia's been explosive in the passing game is because teams through 4 games have really stacked the box against Georgia and said, we dare you to beat us through the air, and Georgia just beat them through the air. So I'm curious if Arkansas changes that up. They've been running this umbrella. Barry Odom kind of gave the SEC a blueprint of how to slow down spread offenses. Changing their front is different. Maybe they're trying to give Georgia a different look, give them their best shot. But this line opened up at 18, and while 87% of the money has been on Arkansas, the line moved half a point in favor of Georgia. That tells me, despite all the money being on one side, that Vegas hasn't flinched. And they're they want even money on both sides. The fact that Vegas hasn't flinched tells me that Vegas is pretty confident Georgia's a 3-touchdown favorite here. So I'll lay the points with Georgia. I think Georgia wins somewhere 38-13. I think they pulled away. And I just think it says a lot about Georgia. Arkansas is not to be discredited here. I just think it says a lot more about Georgia than it does about Arkansas. So I'll lay the points as well. We're 3 for 3. Hopefully we'll get some changes here in the next few games. Notre Dame, 2:30 kickoff on NBC, hosting Cincinnati. Both teams, again, undefeated. Cincinnati, hey, they're looking at the playoffs saying, if we take down Notre Dame, they got a shot. So where are you going with this game?
I love this game because this is a playoff game, Jacob. Both of these teams are playing for the playoff. It would be each of their team so far to this point in the season, the best win. Obviously, a week ago you may have thought it was Wisconsin for Notre Dame or whatever. Each week it changes, but this, and then obviously Cincy beating Indiana was huge. Earlier in the season, especially the way that game unfolded. Jacob, it's similar to the Iowa-Maryland game for me. I like Cincinnati. I think that they should win this game because I think that they're the better team. But Notre Dame is playing at home and is one of the most proud programs, the most historic stadiums, historic venues, and the winningest coach in Notre Dame football history is on the sidelines. And they may have looked ugly in these first 4 wins thus far. They're catching 2.5 points at home. The disrespect, all right? They're going to go to midnight mass. They're going to say some extra prayers, all right? They're going to say 10 Hail Marys. And shoot, Jack Cohn might throw one or two, but they're going to win this game outright. I'm going to take these 2.5 points. I'm going to run and hide because I get 2.5 extra points. But Notre Dame's winning this outright versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati might even have a first half lead, but Notre Dame will finish this game out and they will win this game by 10 points.
I see what you're doing here. You're hedging your bets because on our picks we have on the side, you pulled a fast one on me. You put Cincinnati down. Here's what's going on. You're behind in those picks. You're ahead in these picks. So you're willing to take a risk here against me, but you're more confident. I don't know. You pulled a fast one on me there. I was really thinking you were going to go Cincinnati.
I just haven't updated it. My heart really has had a change today. And I think I really do. I think Cincinnati, like that's what I'm telling you. I think Cincinnati's the better team. And if this game was played 10 times on a neutral field, I think Cincinnati right now would win 7 of them. But it's not. It's played at Notre Dame Stadium in front of Touchdown Jesus, and he wants to see a Notre Dame victory. All right. And so I think they're going to give it to him.
I'm with you. I think Notre Dame wins outright. And here's the thing. Notre Dame's not been explosive on offense. Cincinnati absolutely has. Cincinnati also hasn't played a top 60 team. So let's not pretend like they've beaten anybody good to this point. Indiana, not a top 60 team.
But it was on the road against a team that has a profile that should be better than them. And the way they won that game was very impressive. Like I am in on Cincinnati. Me and you both, I think, are. It's just
I'm in on Cincinnati. I wasn't impressed with the Indiana
I feel like I'm
one.
playing a chaos principle on Notre Dame winning a home game against Cincinnati, and that feels crazy to me. Like I feel like I'm being crazy with it.
The crazy thing is that Cincinnati's a 2.5 point favorite at Notre Dame. I think that is disrespectful. Yeah. I cannot justify giving Cincinnati any points on the road at Notre Dame. Therefore, I'm taking Notre Dame. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they've pulled out 4 wins to this point, but they have, and they keep doing it. I'll give you an over-under in this game.
Right here.
Over-under 7.5 mentions of Brian Kelly and Marcus Freeman being former Cincinnati coaches by the announcers.
Well, I'll go more specifically, Freeman, because he was on Luke Fickell's staff. That's going to be a big point throughout this whole time. But yeah,
it'll be Mike Tirico mentioned that at least 10
Here's
times.
The thing, Jacob. Take the team, take the players out of it. Who do you think is more, I guess you say, vengeful or revengeful between, like, you think, like, who does the coaching change benefit? Does it benefit Cincinnati with an edge, or does it benefit Notre Dame with an edge, or do you think it kind of cancels out because they both would have a little edge on it?
I think it cancels out. I think the players are like, you could play the whole he left us card and use that to amp you up. But I think beyond emotion, schematically, Freeman knows that defensive like no one left from that defense. So he knows that defense backwards and forwards. So as far as prep for this game, I think that's the advantage, is just knowing the personnel, know what they're going to call. The defense hasn't changed. They've still been really good on defense. I think that's more of an advantage than an emotional advantage. An emotional advantage only gets you so far.
Oh, yeah.
Schematic advantage gets you a lot further. So I'll take Notre Dame outright, 24-21. They do it again. Let's go to the other SEC
Call us
game.
Wendy's because we got the 4 for 4.
Oh, my gosh, I hate that. All right. Alabama, Ole Miss. Man, 14.5 point favorites at home. Alabama is, one of the best games from last year outside the final score. But, hey, you got the 2 Heisman front runners in this game, which he knows going to make for a fun game. So, and Daniel, just so you know, that the Heisman front runner from Ole Miss is not John Reese Plumlee.
I was about to ask you if it was.
It's Matt Corral. So
he's having a good year.
Where are you going with this one?
So, Jacob, you and I have talked about this Nick Saban principle. All right. He doesn't lose 2 years in a row.
No.
The last time he did was Ole Miss. Last year,
Swag Kelly.
We counted this as a loss because Nick Saban gave up 600 yards. They still won the game. Saban wasn't happy about it. I don't think he's had a good night of sleep since. Shoot. I don't think he ever has a good night's sleep. No, I'm just kidding. After he gets those number one classes, I'm sure he sleeps just fine. But and national championships, of course. But I think he was pretty upset with that game. I think that may have spurred them to win the rest of their games the way they did and dominate folks the way they did. I think that this game, I don't think Ole Miss can win this game
But
because Nick Saban, the Nick Saban principle. I'm playing the Nick Saban principle. There's no way he's letting Ole Miss actually win this game. But there's a hook.
yep. I was like
14.5 is just too rich for a Lane offense with, I mean, Matt Corral, he is the profile of a quarterback that takes down a Nick Saban Alabama team. While I don't think that happens, I mean, he's got the obviously the escapability is a big thing where he can go from, rollouts to in the pocket to get a few extra yards, get a first down, that kind of stuff. He's not necessarily going to be a weapon running the ball because you don't want him to be, you don't want to put him in harm's way. I think he could because he is an athlete, but he's so accurate with the ball now. And I think that they're hitting on all cylinders offensively. And of the 15 SEC games that Nick Saban has lost, 5 of the losses have come from teams off of a bye. So Ole Miss has a bye. I don't think that they win this game outright, but 14.5, it's rich. I'm going to take Ole Miss. I just want to stay with them. I feel like Alabama wins this game. I feel like I could pick them and sleep well at night, but I can't sleep this. If it was 13.5, this is Alabama, and I write it down with the pen, and I just would never do it again. But I just feel like I would just keep erasing it with, anyways. I'm saying a lot of words. Ole Miss plus 14.5.
So, and Kiffin also has definitely made this their Super Bowl, like 100%.
Right.
He wants to beat Saban. He knows what gets on Saban's nerves. But I'm with you, and I've termed this now. I mentioned this before. Maybe it was last season. I don't know if this season or last season, but I'm calling it the Infinity War principle. All right? In that, when Thor gets down to Thanos and hits him in the chest with the axe, what's Thanos' response? You should have aimed for the head, and snaps and wipes out half the universe. Ole Miss had their shot last year when they caught Alabama off guard. And Saban looks at Kiffin and goes, you should have aimed for the head because that is not happening again. Like, Saban will not let that happen again. I promise you, all the coach talk and coach speak and player talk is going to be that they treat every game the same. And they do. They have a standard at Alabama, but I promise you they practice extra for this game. I promise you they hit on the Ole Miss offense in the offseason. This game is important to Nick Saban, and it's important that he embarrasses Lane Kiffin in this game in the most professional manner possible. And that's with a good old-fashioned beatdown, 52-31 Bama. I think Ole Miss gets the 30 points. I just think it's the same problem Ole Miss had last year. How many stops can they actually get? Last year, I think it was the worst they can possibly get in that game. Something like this, they got like 92% of all possible yards. But where Alabama struggled against Florida and where it made them look mortal was actually the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Ole Miss cannot challenge Bama on the line of scrimmage. That won't be a struggle in this game. They're not going to be able to expose anything that Bama isn't a strength. And I think after this game, we're going to be talking about, okay, well, that was fun with these other West teams that looked pretty good. Because with the way I'm predicting it, with Georgia beating down Arkansas and Bama beating down Ole Miss, it's just going to turn to, oh, wow, we can't wait for the game of the century on December 4th because we already thought there were only 2 elite teams, and my goodness, there are 2 elite teams, and everybody else is playing for that second tier. And that's what I think the conversation is going to be at the end of that 3:30 slate. So a Bama beatdown, should have aimed for the head, the Infinity War principle. There you go.
I will say, Lane is a petty guy,
Oh, he's
And
real
I
petty.
wouldn't a backdoor cover feels about right. So
Oh,
even
he
if you're
could.
right,
That's very lame.
Jacob, he would do some sort of, he'd pull an
See,
old fake punch, triple option, reverse pass or something, and
but
he
what
would
are the
score.
odds? Let's say Lane keeps the starters in. Like Bama gets up 21. Saban starts to pull starters. Lane sits back out Matt Corral in the offense. What are the odds Saban's like, screw you. I'm keeping my starters in. So you want to lose worse? Like, I think Saban is secretly petty. Like all these basketball stories and stuff,
Oh
like
yeah.
his pickup game, he's petty. He
Well, they're
just,
just he's the ultimate competitor.
oh yeah.
So it's just like he just can't. That's why he's undefeated against his assistants. He's just
Yep.
not going to allow
He's
them
not
to
going
beat
to
him.
let him.
And so obviously this is the same case. And
And the
you know,
first one will not be Lane Kiffin. Just
I don't think that
he couldn't
Saban would
sleep.
ever sleep
He'd
again
retire.
if it
He'd
was
quit.
if Kiffin was the first one.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Let's shift down or up, I guess,
Wait,
to
wait, wait. So
No, yeah.
you're laying
Oh
14
yeah.
and a half. I'm
Laying
just
it.
verifying. So
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
finally are different on a pick.
Finally.
Okay.
Let's go to Lexington, Kentucky. The checkout line at Kroger Field. That's my favorite line. Kentucky playing host to Florida. Kentucky undefeated. Florida with that 2-point loss to Alabama. Kentucky 8-point dogs at the checkout line at Kroger Field. So where are you going with this game, Daniel?
Yeah. So Kentucky, they're a team that you typically go, hey, that's a good defensive ball club that's gonna, run and hit and play, you know, solid defense. They're gonna run the ball and they're going to protect the ball and not turn it over. They've been struck with the turnover bug here recently, and giving the ball away, especially in the red zone, and has been an issue. Florida, obviously, they've kind of found somewhat of an identity for Emory Jones, I think, really trying to use his athleticism to their advantage. Whereas before, I think that they were kind of splitting that between him and Anthony Richardson. While before Richardson, obviously got injured a little bit. Maybe Richardson's back for this game, a little healthy. I'd like to see him get in the game a little bit. But I'm really impressed with Emory, um, you know, throwing for 200 yards or whatever he normally does, and he's been running for close to 100 each game. So I really impressed with that. I think that that's a good path to victory for them. Um, this game does mean a decent amount to Kentucky after they broke that streak a few years back. I think that they envision themselves, able to beat Florida. They do see themselves as somewhat of a peer. I do think Florida wins this game on the road. Um, I think that Florida is the better team. I think that both teams have flaws. I do think that Emory Jones probably does throw an interception, maybe two in this game. I do think that that will be something going on, but I do think that Florida's defense probably forces a couple turnovers as well from Kentucky. But Kentucky isn't home, and they got their Kroger Plus card, and there's 8 points attached to it. And so I'm going to take Kentucky plus the points because I think that they'll keep it close enough at home. I think this is like maybe a touchdown Florida victory, maybe, 4 points, something like that. So give me Kentucky plus the points.
This is one of the games I'm most interested in, and also a game I'm probably the least confident in this pick. So Kentucky's defense averaging 3.7 yards per play. It's tied for second in the country. All right. Florida's offense averaging 7.4 yards per play, tied for fifth in the country. So again, something's got to give. Here's some good stats from Graham Coffee on Twitter about Emory Jones. So behind the line of scrimmage so far, and throws behind the line of scrimmage, Emory Jones is a perfect 21 of 21, 3-point yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, like really great, right? 0 to 9 yards, 32 of 43, 7.1 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Here's where it gets a little dicey. So 10 to 19 yards, only 14 to 26, 8.1 yards per attempt, though, 0 tutties, 2 interceptions, and then 20-plus yards, only 3 of 12, 7.3 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. A strong front seven and short zones can make life hard for Florida. Now, Kentucky, I think, has like half of that. I think they run a really good zone defense. I don't think they have this strong front seven. I think the defensive line's good. I just don't think it's a very strong front seven, but I also think Florida is actually finding its groove with Emory at quarterback. I think we saw this last week a little bit with Tennessee, especially in the second half. I think they had some Alabama hangover in that first half against Tennessee, which is common with teams who play Alabama.
That's why I took Tennessee in the points. I felt dumb afterwards.
And credit to Florida for shaking it off after a half and pulling away. I think the more Florida tools their offense towards Emory Jones and doesn't try to make Emory Jones run the offense they wanted, the more successful they'll be. I think we saw that more against Tennessee. Look, Emory is not Kyle Trask. He's not this like passer who's going to sit back and find the perfect read and dink and dunk and like then hit your explosive plays. No, like he's an athlete. He's got really good legs. Utilize him in the run game and then use that to your advantage when you want to hit explosive plays where the threat of the run's there and then you pop one over the top. So I think they're finding that with Emory Jones. And the more they do that, the more success they're going to have on offense. I think Florida covers this game late and win by like 10. And so I think this is a really good game. I think Florida's up the whole game. I don't think they cover late. Late field goal or a late touchdown to get the cover. Again, not confident in that because Kentucky can just cause some chaos. They've given Florida trouble under Dan Mullen. You know, they beat him that first year. Right. And then that second year was when Felipe Franks got hurt and Kyle Trask had to come lead a comeback in Lexington. That was the last time they played there. So they've given them some trouble. Don't love it, but I will lay the point with Florida.
Hey, quick on Florida. Their offensive line has really stepped up from the past couple of years, specifically run blocking. I think that they are an elite run blocking team. I think that 100%. That's a key to victory for them. A path to victory is these backs getting in some space and obviously Emory Jones running from behind the line of scrimmage. And if Anthony Richardson's in there as well. So that's just a really big key. Pass blocking, I think that they're a little more average on that. Just overall, that could be a little of Emory's issues, could be a little of, coverage issues, could be them. But run blocking, I mean, they look sharp.
100%. All right, last game, Big 12, another battle of undefeateds. Oklahoma State coming in undefeated, 3.5-point favorite at home against Baylor. So where are you going in this Big 12 matchup?
So I've really been – I think I've subconsciously been fading Oklahoma State all year. And I think it's because last year I was really heavy on Oklahoma State, and I think that I went to the well too many times and I ended up getting burned. Spencer Sanders, tough dude to do that with because just turnover machine last year. They've had a very good start to the year. Impressive win on against Boise. Just a good solid year so far. And then Baylor has been a team that while they haven't been lighting up the scoreboard offensively or anything like that, they've been very efficient on offense and they've been very they've had success on offense. So I've been impressed with just the way that they've gone about that. I think that Dave Aranda, I'm really proud of what he's done already. We knew he was a good defensive mind and all these kinds of things. Him coming in, replacing Matt Rule. We were so high on Matt Rule and where he got that program to. We're questioning if Baylor could sustain that or even return to that. And it looks like Dave Aranda could get this thing turned in that direction. I don't necessarily think that they're arrived by any stretch of the imagination just yet. I do think they're playing really good ball. I think they're a hot team with confidence. I think the same thing can be said about Oklahoma State. This is a very good matchup. It's almost like the undercard of the conference, if you will. Two forgotten teams playing each other on Saturday night. It's going to be a good matchup. I'm interested to see if Baylor can go on the road and kind of stick it to them. They get 3.5 points. I just think that Oklahoma State, I don't think that they can win this game by more than that. I don't think they're going to run away from Baylor. I think Baylor could either A, come in, just win this game outright, B, come in to control this game for a while, maybe lose it late, or C, just never go away. And so that's the only three ways I see this game really playing out. So I'm going to take Baylor in these points, and I feel pretty good about it.
WTF game, Daniel. Wrong team favored. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking Baylor in the points.
We need a button.
Baylor is 3-1 against the spread, beating the spread by an average of 10 points a game. Baylor and Oklahoma State have played similar schedules, though you could definitely argue Baylor's played the toughest game against Iowa State, in which they won last week. Baylor's winning their games by an average score of 42-16. Oklahoma State winning their games by an average score of 25-19. And when you win close games, you eventually lose a close game. And I will take Baylor to win a close game in this instance. I like Baylor to win 34-31. So I will take Baylor in the points, although I don't think I'm going to need them because Baylor wins this game outright. And what a job by Dave Aranda if he starts 5-0 in year 2. So incredible start. Regardless, incredible start so far at 4-0. But
it's the Chip and Joanna Gaines principle. Taking
Chip
Baylor
and Joanna Gaines principle
against all odds.
So we
put some shiplap on it.
Okay, so we have 2 games where we're different. So the max games I can catch you is 2 games. That sucks.
This is called strategery. All right.
Slow and steady wins the race, my friend. So I'll catch
you're
my
slow
stride.
and I'm steady. So there we go.
That's it. Oh, you can follow him on Twitter at Deep South Daniel. He'll have his hashtag Saturday impressions after the games on Saturday. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. And hey, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at the Extra Point Pod. I will be present for the top 10 matchup between Georgia and Arkansas. We'll try to post some stuff from the game day there on our accounts. But that will do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He is Daniel. I am Jacob.